Hello everyone. Now you will hear a brief summary of the movie, Killer Elite. Enjoy watching. 1980 year. Four mercenaries arrived in a small Mexican town to eliminate a targeted victim. At the start, a car with guards was blown up. Hunter blocked the road from behind and opened fire on the car carrying the target. From the other side, Danny Bryce appeared, shot the car's tires, and blew off its doors. Finally, he reached the politician and eliminated him. But this happened in front of the victim's son. Danny got distracted and was wounded by the police. Hunter covered him and helped him up. Davis picked them both up in a car. At that moment, Danny realized he had had enough. He decided to quit this dangerous job. The man returned to his native Australia and lived peacefully for a year. But then he received a photograph of Hunter. He had been captured somewhere in Oman. 2 days later, Danny arrived in the country and learned that his friend had been taken by an oil sheikh. Hunter had blindly taken a job, but upon learning the details, he tried to escape with the money. That's why he was captured. Now, to save his friend, Danny had to complete the mission. The mercenary was taken to the sheikh. During a recent power struggle in the region, 3 of the sheikh's sons were killed. He managed to save only the youngest, Bahit. The ones responsible for his sons' deaths had to be eliminated. All of the killers were members of the SAS, the British Special Forces. The sheikh was seriously ill, so these Englishmen had to be taken down within 6 months, and each of them had to record a confession on camera before dying. Danny visited his old friend in captivity. Hunter admitted that he had been greedy, as the job was worth a whole $6 million. Danny refused to play by the rules. She knocked out 2 guards and freed Hunter. The partners had to shoot the guards, so sneaking away was not an option. Unfortunately, the plan was doomed from the start. Bahit and his men stopped the escapees. Danny attacked the middleman because he was responsible for Hunter's captivity. First, Danny flew to Paris to gather his old team. He was warned that it would be tough because the SAS was the best unit in the world. Even the Navy SEALs were no match for them. Despite this, Davis agreed to join the mission, as did Meyer, since they would make a lot of money. However, Danny refused the payment, only wanted to free his old friend. They knew only one name, Stephen Harris, who was still in Oman at a British military base. That evening, Danny broke into his house and chipped a piece of tile in the bathroom. At the same time in London, Davis visited a special forces bar and tried to find out which veterans had served in Oman. His suspicious behavior was immediately reported to Spike Logan. Davis was placed under surveillance. Former Special Forces soldiers, who were now influential businessmen and politicians, had organized a sort of secret society that protected and covered for all SAS veterans. They tasked Spike with handling the situation. During his service, he had been one of the best. Spike ordered his associate Martin to keep an eye on Davis. The team reunited in Oman. They had to disguise all the murders as accidents and had ordered a suitable weapon, a sledgehammer with tile fragments. Danny noticed the glint of Martin's camera lens and realized they were being watched. The mercenaries chased Martin. He jumped into an underground cave and, to escape his pursuers, smashed a beehive. This meant someone was hunting the mercenaries themselves. They needed to hurry. To infiltrate Harris's home again, Danny and Meyer posed as military journalists. They tied the veteran to a chair, turned on the camera, and prepared the crime scene. Harris had to confess that he had killed the sheikh's son. Harris admitted to participating in the operation but claimed that someone else was the real killer and was now writing a book about it. Danny thought the veteran was mocking him. After getting the confession, he tilted Harris over the bathtub and was about to smash his head when suddenly his lover entered the room. Danny got distracted, and when he turned back, he saw that Meyer had already done the dirty work for him. Spike learned about Captain Harris's death from the newspapers. The middleman received the next lead from a British special agent and passed it on to the mercenaries. Davis visited another veteran, who now paints pictures of his adventures in Oman, and started asking questions about that operation. The artist immediately called his former comrades and raised the alarm. In response, Davis broke a paintbrush and stabbed the veteran in the neck with the splinter. After that, the thug found a report stating that Sheikh's son had been killed by Worry Craig. His wife was in the hospital, and the soldier himself was preparing for a forced march. Spike assigned Agent Pennock to keep an eye on Craig. The mercenaries arrived at the training ground where the forced march would take place. On one hand, there were always many special forces soldiers there. On the other, it was easy to stage an accident. Spike noticed a suspicious guy pretending to be a doctorate was clearly one of the killers. Danny realized he had been made and tried to escape from his pursuers by car. After making a loop, he returned to the hospital, where a fight broke out between him and Spike. Danny nearly gouged out the operative's eye, but Spike bit him in return only to get a hole in his palm as payback. Both fighters battled as if it were their last fight. Danny was close to losing, but as usual, a well-placed groin strike settled the matter. Danny took down Agent Pennick with just 2 punches. From the hospital, the mercenary stole 2 drugs designed to induce hypothermia in Craig. All that was left was to sneak into the SAS base and administer the drugs to the Special Forces soldier before the forced march. Danny posed as one of them and followed Craig into the mess hall. He slipped the powder into the soldier's coffee, but he only drank half the cup. Danny went along with the others. Even half the dose was enough to make Craig feel unwell at the very start of the forced march. As he was dying, he confessed to killing one of the Sheikh's sons. Danny sent the recording to the client. The team had only one target left, Major Simon McCann. This McCann is a crazy type. Some skinheads scratched his car, and the veteran crippled all 3 of them. Spike was already keeping an eye on him. The mercenaries followed Spike and found out where he lived. The middleman discovered that Spike didn't have a job, yet he was always busy with something. The killers called McCann and invited him for a job interview for a security guard position. Meanwhile, higher-ups advised the secret society to rein in their attack dog so he wouldn't interfere with the mercenaries' work. Spike said that McCann would be next, but they didn't care. That's when Spike realized that these old geezers had betrayed their own. They were willing to sweep everything under the rug as long as it didn't interfere with those in power. In any case, if things went south, Spike would be the one to take the fall. A new recruit, Jake, joined the mercenary team. The plan was to use a radio-controlled truck to crash into McCann's car. McCann had just set off for the fake job interview, with one of Spike's men keeping an eye on him. Meanwhile, the truck, controlled by Meyer, was already heading toward them. A few hundred meters remained to the target. The truck driver lost control of the massive vehicle, veered into the oncoming lane, and suddenly spun around. McCann didn't have time to brake and crashed into the truck at full speed. Meyer wanted to make sure McCann was dead, but Spike's agent spotted him. A chase began after him and the rookie. They drove into a warehouse, and both cars came to a stop. Jake kept getting in Meyer's way, and when the fight broke out, he shot the enemy in the headbutt. In the process, he accidentally killed his own mentor as well. Danny and Davis lost a longtime friend, but at least the job was done. They could finally go their separate ways again. However, Spike wasn't going to let it slide so easily. He tracked down the hotel where Davis was staying, and Davis was arrested in the middle of the night. Danny had kept the radio of the dead agent and overheard that his friend was in trouble. Davis managed to escape, but as he ran onto the highway and tried to stop a car, he was hit by a truck. Spike was furious, had hoped to find out who took out his protégés. Danny snuck into Spike's house and discovered that he had lost yet another friend. He offered Spike a truce, telling him to let it all go. The job was done, and they had seen enough death. The Sheikh finally released Hunter. Danny demanded that the old man also quit this dangerous job. Danny returned to Australia to his girlfriend and promised her that he would never leave again. Meanwhile, Martin and Spike tracked down the middleman. Just then, the middleman called Danny and informed him that they had actually killed the wrong person, leaving him without his 10% commission. Now, the killer would have to meet Bahit in London. If he refused, his girlfriend would suffer. Someone had left a bullet near Annie's head. Her life was in danger, so Danny took Annie to Paris and left her under Hunter's protection. Danny himself traveled to London to meet Bahit. The mercenary brutally beat all of Bahit's guards in retaliation for the bullet trick. Bahit threw a book onto the table. Harris hadn't lied. He didn't kill the Sheikh's son. Another soldier named Fiennes had written a book about his time in Oman and how he had taken out the rebel leader. This meant Danny had killed an innocent man, but he still had to complete the job. The middleman informed him that Fiennes was about to hold a press conference about his book. Spike overheard their conversation. He gathered a serious team to take Danny down. Fiennes was warned. A suspicious man wearing a motorcycle helmet entered the building, heading toward Fiennes. But one of the doors had been rigged with explosive. Zaza blast went off. The unknown figure was unmasked, revealing rookie Jake. Meanwhile, Danny reached Fiennes and shot him in the leg. The killer fired a few more shots and took a photo of the body. He planned to escape via the rooftop, but they were already waiting for him there. Danny knocked out an agent. Dodging gunfire, he jumped from one building to another. He repeated the dangerous stunt and nearly fell to his death. It seemed like he had escaped, but a witness screamed, and Spike captured him. It turned out that Danny hadn't actually killed the writer. He had only staged the photo by making it look like Fiennes was in a pool of blood. He remembered that boy from Turkey and no longer wanted to kill. Danny warned Spike that others would come for Fiennes, and if he showed the photo to the client, the veteran would simply be forgotten. Danny offered to trade his freedom for information about the client. Spike heard the truth, but still didn't believe him. Suddenly, a government agent aimed a gun at them both had been betrayed by their own people. The agent revealed that the government had made a deal with the sheikh. They would hand over the killers, and in return, the sheikh's younger son would gain power and sign a lucrative oil contract with Britain. The agent intended to execute them both, but a chaotic fight broke out. During the struggle, Spike shot the agent, while Danny threw himself out the window and stole a car. Spike didn't have time to shoot him. The middleman blamed Danny for losing his commission, so he decided to take Annie hostage. However, Hunter ruined his plans. The old man first beat up the middleman's accomplice and then shot the middleman in the leg. It was the middleman who had betrayed the killers, but Hunter still spared his life. All that was left was to show the sheikh the photo of Fiennes. Hunter also flew to Oman to cover for his friend. However, Spike reached the sheikh before him and presented the supposed photo of the dead Fiennes. But suddenly, he declared that the veteran was alive and then stabbed the old man to death. He spared Bahit. The heir had no desire to inherit his father's power. The young man pointed at a suitcase full of money, and Spike took it. A chase for the Englishman immediately began. Danny followed them. Hunter gunned down the pursuer's car. Soon, the mercenaries caught up with Spike and shot out his car's tires. Spike revealed that the sheikh was dead and that his son had no intention of returning to the desert, so there would be no contracts with Britain. Hunter found a suitcase full of money, but Danny insisted they leave it. Let those dirty funds stay with Spike. He would never be able to return to England after killing a government agent. He still needed to forge documents and get a new identity. Meanwhile, Danny picked up his girlfriend and drove from Paris back home to Australia.